If you watch a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of people will talk about the cost of living in the different countries. It could be Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, US, and so forth. However, not many people actually make standard of living videos, which we are going to talk about in this video. Hey guys, my name is Fran and you may know us as the Corporate Breakout Couple. My husband John and I, we travel around and we make cost of living videos. So we are quite well known for that. Bangkok, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, Indonesia, we've done it all. In today's video, I want to talk about the standard of living. In which country? In the two countries that I hold very dear to my heart, which is Malaysia and Singapore. Before we continue, please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this video with all your friends and family. We really appreciate it. First off, what is standard of living? Standard of living definition is actually the measure of material well-being of a person in the country that they're living in. It also includes the level of comfort and the access to goods and services the person has in the country that they're living in. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel, John is Singaporean, I'm Malaysian Singapore PR, and I've lived in Singapore for the last 14 years. However, the last 2.5 years, we've been actually traveling and living mainly in Malaysia, Penang specifically, and we've traveled to all the states within Malaysia, West and East Malaysia. So suffice to say, we're pretty familiar and we've experienced the difference in standard of living in both countries. Let's talk about the economic foundations in both these countries, shall we? You must first understand that Singapore, being a small nation, is an import-centric country. It means that it heavily imports a lot of essential goods and services. The most valuable resource that Singapore has is actually its manpower, its people. Singapore has always invested heavily in its human capital, which then leads to high productivity, which then leads to strong GDP growth. With strong GDP growth, it means that the Sing dollar has higher purchasing power, which then allows Singapore to import. Remember, it's an import-centric country, to import its goods and services at a lower cost. This means that Singapore citizens and the people living in Singapore are able to comfortably purchase imported products without breaking the bank in respect to their salaries. Let's talk about Malaysia. Malaysia is a huge country and very blessed with natural resources such as palm oil, petroleum, rubber, to name a few. Malaysia is an export-centric country. So what does this mean for Malaysia and its citizens? So the good news for Malaysians is that for Malaysia's export-driven economy, it actually helps keep local produce relatively affordable for the Malaysians. Examples will be cooking oil, petrol, locally grown fruits and vegetables, certain seafood and poultry. On the flip side, Malaysians do pay a premium price for imported goods. This is due to mainly two reasons. The first reason is that the GDP growth has not been as strong as the other developing countries. This can be clearly seen by the ringgit's performance against the US dollar, which has been declining steadily over the last 10 years. Looking at this chart, back in 2012, 1 US dollar equals to 3 ringgit versus now 2024, 1 US dollar equals to 4.42 ringgit. Second reason is that being an export-centric country, just like China and Japan, the currencies cannot be too strong so that it can remain competitive for other countries to buy its products and services. We mentioned that we've been living in Malaysia for the last 2.5 years, correct? So therefore, let me give you an example of the types of fruits that we actually eat in Penang. Locally grown fruits in Malaysia are cheaper. Therefore, in our household, we actually eat a lot of bananas, watermelons, papayas. Very rarely do we get to eat those imported fruits, strawberries, blueberries, cherries, peaches. It doesn't make sense for us to pay hundreds of ringgit just to eat a few punnets of cherries, blueberries, or strawberries. Let me give you an example. A punnet of blueberries, which is Driscoll branded, costs over 35 ringgit for just one punnet. However, the South African blueberries, which are actually small and sour, cost only around 12 ringgit. So guess which one we actually buy in Malaysia? There's also slim pickings in the supermarket aisles for imported fruits because Malaysians simply just can't afford to be purchasing raspberries, cherries on a daily basis. Whenever we head back to Singapore to visit our friends and family, guess what? Our Singapore household is actually filled with imported fruits such as blueberries, kiwis, cherries, raspberries, avocados, because, for example, a Driscoll blueberry for 2 punnets only costs 12 Singapore dollars. We also eat fruits like papayas, watermelon. From where? From Malaysia. And guess what? They are actually a lot sweeter and juicier because Malaysia saves the best fruits to be exported out into countries like Singapore. Another example is steak. John and I love to eat steak, right? And we love to shop for the best cuts of meat in both Singapore and Malaysia. And we have frequent dinner parties where we invite friends and family over for a fantastic steak dinner. In Penang, we usually get our steaks from Jaya Grocer. And to give you the math, it is 2.4 kg of Angus ribeye from Australia, comfortably feed 8 packs, and that will set us back around 800 ringgit. In Singapore, we usually go to a specialized butchery for our steak. A Black Angus ribeye from Australia, also 2.4 kg, feeding 8 packs, will set us back Singapore dollars 150. So in summary for this, it means that we actually eat better steaks at a lower cost in Singapore. In essence, Singaporeans are actually putting better quality food into their bodies. Now, I can give you many examples, and I only just chose the blueberries and the steak. Let's not even go into the hawker food, okay? I will give you one more example. Chicken rice. Whenever John and I eat chicken rice in Singapore, it doesn't matter which hawker stall, right? It can be anyone. They're pretty much very delicious. And the thing that I love the most is when you pay for that one chicken rice meal, can set you back maybe $5, $6. However, the chicken that they give you, the protein amount is actually sufficient for you to eat as a meal. In Malaysia, whenever we eat chicken rice, we actually often have to add more protein to the meal because the chicken that they give you, the chicken portion, is not enough. So what they do is, imagine if this is the chicken, they use their knife, they smash it, right? And then they slice it into half, they chop it up, and then they give you half of a half, and that's your portion. The base price of a chicken rice meal in Penang is around 8 to 9, right? And that's with the half of the half portion. So we often add more, which then our price per plate becomes 14 to 15 ringgit. The median salary in Penang is roughly around RM 2007. So imagine you're paying 14 ringgit for a plate of chicken rice. That is 0.5% of your salary. In Singapore, the median salary is Sing dollars 5,200. A plate of chicken rice is $6, which means it is only 0.1% of your salary. Standard of living also encompasses the comfort you feel when you're living in the country or when you're walking about in public open spaces. Let's talk about infrastructure maintenance in both countries. In Singapore, whenever you go to a mall or you go to a condo unit, they are very nicely maintained. The building maintenance is definitely there. There's a standard to it. And there's a nice coat of paint every 5 to 7 years on each building. Imagine my embarrassment in Penang when I was taking my friend to tour around the island of Penang, and she said, "Oh, what an interesting building. Look at that building. It's black in color." I said, No, that is actually not the color. It is a building that has not seen a coat of paint in decades. Poor building maintenance is not just in Penang. It is actually throughout the entire Malaysia. John and I, we traveled very heavily within Malaysia the last 2.5 years, and we actually stayed in a lot of pet-friendly Airbnb condos. And when after our dog died, we actually stayed in hotels and other Airbnbs as well. All of them have one thing in common, which is the poor maintenance in the upkeep of the building. Poor facility management is actually very apparent in all the buildings that we stayed in. For example, one of the swimming pools that we were in a condo in Ipoh, had tiles sticking up at the bottom of the swimming pool, so it's actually very dangerous. Also, the maintenance of gym equipment is very poor, very rusty equipment, or some of the equipment like the treadmills are out of order. And finally, they do not clear the refuse in the building on a daily basis. So there is a tan of the rotting rubbish smell that is permeating all over the areas. On the other hand, whenever we visit condos in Singapore, they are usually well maintained, the facilities are kept, and some of the lobbies are even perfumed and air-conditioned. We all know the quality and the conditions of public toilets in Malaysia and Singapore, right? So standard of living is not just about the comfort, but it's also about the workability of using public facilities in these countries. When you're in a country, the experience of using a public facility can leave you feeling in awe and surprise, and it can also leave you feeling disgusted. We really dread going to public toilets in Malaysia because not only is it wet and dirty with footprints all over, sometimes it's also the non-workability of these things. For example, the taps are not working, the soap dispenser is not working, the hand drying machine is not working, and some of the toilets can't even flush. Each time we are back in Singapore, we are really in awe of how well kept the public toilets in Singapore are, be it in East Coast Park, be it in Jewel, Changi Airport, be it in all the other local kopitiams and food centres in Singapore. This shows that the Singapore government really does care about the standard of living of its citizens, the residents, and the tourists. In Malaysia, there's a general sense of the tidak apa attitude, which translates to the don't care attitude. And it does show in the toilets, doesn't it? And that's just a simple example. In summary, no country is perfect. Both Malaysia and Singapore have their pros and cons living in each country. Singapore has a much higher standard of living because it offers higher purchasing power, cleanliness, effectiveness. However, it does come at a cost. People living in Singapore need to get used to the fast pace of life that is Singapore. They also need to be highly productive, which means that they cannot stop working and they cannot retire easily. This will then in turn lead to high stress, and the need to escape is real, which is why a lot of Singaporeans take the opportunity to travel out of Singapore each and every chance that they get. Malaysia, on the other hand, offers a lower standard of living, no doubt. However, there are pros to that as well. Malaysians do have a few more options. For example, if they want the fast-paced life, they can actually go work in KL. But if they want a more laid-back, relaxed environment, they can head over to Ipoh or Penang for a more relaxed lifestyle. People living in both Singapore and Malaysia therefore then need to be aware of what both of these countries offer, both the pros and the cons. Malaysians moving over to Singapore to work and live need to be okay with the fast pace of life. Also, you need to be okay with the higher efficiency and the productivity, which means that you cannot slack off and relax when you're in Singapore. Singaporeans, on the other hand, wanting to live and retire in Malaysia, you have to be okay with the lower standard of living in terms of the food, it can be the transport, it can be the building maintenance, the safety even. The key is to understand the trade-offs and make the best of the opportunities that each country offers. This is the end of the video. My name is Fran, one half of the Corporate Breakout Couple. Let us know in the comments below, what do you think of the standard of living in both countries? Please like this video, share this video with all your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!